Back in 2013, when Infiniti initially introduced the JX, which it later rebranded to the QX60, it would have been hard to believe that a brand focused on sports sedans would have a crossover be their best-selling vehicle here in the United States. Yeah, on average, Infiniti has sold over 40,000 units of the QX60 every single year. And when it was initially introduced, I honestly thought it was one of the best-looking mid-size crossovers. But as time went by, it began to look a little bit dated, especially with some of the more modern entrants into the market. Well, here in 2022, they have completely restyled the entire vehicle, and I think Infiniti took the cake yet again on designing one of the most beautiful mid-size crossovers. But aside from looks, does the brand new QX60 have what it takes to compete with the likes of Lexus, BMW, Audi, and the list goes on? Well, that's what we're going to find out in today's video. Now, the QX60 is a mid-size three-row crossover that's meant to compete with the likes of the Lexus RXL, Acura MDX, and the Audi Q7, among a dozen other competitors. It sits just above the two-row QX50, but below the behemoth QX80. Pricing for the new QX60 starts at $46,850 for the entry-level pure trim with front-wheel drive, and goes up to $63,250 for the autograph trim with all-wheel drive. This particular tester is the sensory all-wheel drive trim, which starts at $58,350, but mine is equipped with an additional lighting package and premium moonbow blue paint job, so the MSRP for this particular vehicle is $60,745 after destination. Standard features on the entry-level pure trim include seating for up to 7, tri-zone climate control, 18-inch wheels, wireless Apple CarPlay, a panoramic moonroof, 12.3-inch touchscreen display, 7-inch digital gauge cluster, and 9-speaker audio. The top-of-the-line autograph trim includes a smart rear-view mirror, black obsidian contrast roof with black roof rails, special stitching, upgraded leather, and a heads-up display. Now, as always with my car reviews where we discuss Schweze's 5 categories, we're going to kick it off with practicality. But before I do so, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Infiniti for giving me the opportunity to review this vehicle for you all today. I'm not going to lie, I have been very excited to get my hands on this vehicle because I have always loved Infiniti's exterior and interior styling. And I'm excited to see the latest and greatest in their newest rendition of the QX60. If you're looking to build your own or you want to find out what local inventory looks like, I recommend you check it out on their website. I'll put a link down in the description below. To start things off with practicality, let's talk powertrain. And the engine is actually the exact same from the previous generation. It's a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 that produces 295 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. Now, in case you're wondering, this is actually the exact same engine in the new Pathfinder, although that variant has slightly less horsepower than this one. In terms of transmission, well, new for 2022, you no longer have a CVT. It's actually a 9-speed automatic, and as a result of that, you can tow up to 6,000 pounds. In terms of fuel economy, you get 20 in the city and 25 on the highway for a combined 22. And overall, the engine is actually pretty quick. Now, you can obviously get more horsepower out of some of the German competitors, but for the most part, the 3.5 liter moves this vehicle pretty quick, and we'll talk about performance and handling here in the next few sections. Now, my sensory edition of the QX60 comes with this neat party trick hands-free liftgate. It's nothing new, but still pretty cool to see. Now let's talk about cargo volume, because it's actually pretty good for a vehicle of this size. You actually have about 14.5 cubic feet of space behind the third row. Just so you're aware, that is slightly less than the Acura MDX. Now, if you do need a little bit more space than that, it's actually really easy to fold down this third row seat. You just push it down, and once you do that, you get about 41.6 cubic feet of space behind that second row. Now, if that's not enough for you and you need to pack in some more donuts, you can fold down the second row, and then you get up to 75.4 cubic feet of space behind the first row seats. That should be plenty of room for you to carry around a bunch of different cargo. Now, I want to get into the third row and show you what that looks like, but before I do that, I wanted to show you one cool feature where it really shows that Infiniti kept buyers in the back of their minds when designing this three-row crossover. What I mean by that has to do with access into the third row. Now, you actually just have to push this one button over here, and the seat catapults forward, giving you amazing access into that third row. What's nice about this feature is you can actually keep a car seat still in this seat because it keeps the same angle as it catapults the seat forward. That's really similar to the feature I showed on the Chevy Traverse I reviewed last time, but the difference is Infiniti kept that feature on both the driver and passenger side, so regardless where you put the car seat, you can still gain access to the third row. Okay, now speaking of the third row, legroom isn't great. Infiniti says there's about 28 inches of legroom back here, and I gotta be honest, me sitting pretty much behind myself, it's pretty tight. My knees are touching the seat back, and I almost feel like I'm in the fetal position. But that being said, this isn't necessarily for adults, but more for kids and teens, and they should have no problem fitting back here. Now, the 28 inches is slightly smaller than some of the other competitors like the Cadillac XT6, so just keep that in mind if you're shopping for the QX60. Now, overall back here, it's a pretty comfortable place to sit. The seats are nicely upholstered, and the same nice leather carries over on all three rows. One thing I will point out is you can only get seating up to 7. This middle seat over here is not actually a seat, it's a little plastic tray. And I think that has to do with the fact that the back seats are so narrow that you can't actually fit 3 adults back here. If you want to get seating up to 8, you're going to have to go for the Nissan Pathfinder because it's a little bit wider back here. In terms of amenities back here, you do have air vents, which is a nice touch, and you have USB ports on both sides. So 2 USB ports, 2 air vents. Your third row occupants will be comfortable back here if they're on the younger side. Now, I will knock Infiniti for one thing, and that has to do with this hard touch plastic where you rest your elbows. Now, I have knocked this on pretty much every 3-row vehicle that I have reviewed, but I just don't get why a almost $60,000 luxury vehicle does not have any type of soft touch padding where your elbows are sitting. My brother's 1997 S10 Blazer had padding on the second row, but luxury cars in 2022 do not. So that is the only thing I will complain about. Other than that, your kids should be perfectly fine sitting back here, and there's plenty of things to keep them occupied. Okay, now let's talk about the second row features and amenities. Getting into the second row is very, very easy. There's 6.7 inches of ground clearance, so it's really not very hard to get in and out of the second row and the third row as well. Sitting back here, a very comfortable place to sit. Nice use of leather materials throughout the entire cabin, and overall legroom is fantastic at 37.7 inches. And if you do want to have a little bit more legroom for your third row occupants because maybe you like them, you can slide the seat forward a little bit. Otherwise, you can squish them back in their place and get full access to that 37.7 inches. And just so you know, these seats actually sit a little bit higher than the first row, so you kind of have this commanding view of the road. Really nice, really cool look to it. You can also get this vehicle equipped with captain's chairs, so you can actually remove this middle seat and have this storage compartment that's removable and gives you access to the third row. So if you want that option, you can look into that. Another thing to point out back here is you do have a rear climate control with rear heated seats. And you also have 2 USB ports and a household adapter, so plenty of things back here to keep your rear occupants comfortable and preoccupied on long road trips. Now, we'll talk about design and styling of the front row in the next section, but first I want to talk about practicality. These seats are incredibly comfortable. Infiniti actually calls them the zero gravity seats because they're so ergonomic and meant to match your body shape that this is a very comfortable vehicle to drive in for long road trips. Now, talking about practicality, you do have a 12.3-inch instrument cluster that has wireless Apple CarPlay. Now, if you do have Android Auto, then you're gonna have to do the wired option. They do not have wireless Android Auto, but you've got tons of different functionality that we'll touch on here in a little bit. And my vehicle is equipped with the 12.3-inch instrument cluster as well, which is a really nice practical feature. But if you get the base trim, you're going to get a 7-inch instrument cluster, but still a pretty good size for an entry-level vehicle. Let's also briefly talk storage bins. You've got a bin underneath the floor of the trunk. You have some cubbies in the third row. There's storage bins in the doors of the second row, along with map pockets behind the front row seats. Coming to the front, you've got the standard bins in the doors, and then given that the shifter is electronic, you actually have a space underneath the center console to place like a little bag or a wallet and kind of keep it out of plain sight. The center console is also considerably large and has a space for a wallet or a small purse. The 2020 QX60 received a great rating from J.D. Power in terms of quality and reliability, so I expect the 2022 model will fare similar. Every new Infiniti comes with a 4-year, 60,000-mile basic warranty and a 6-year, 70,000-mile powertrain warranty. Now, in terms of practicality, I would rate this vehicle 7 out of 10. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a very practical vehicle, but there are some other competitors that have slightly more third-row legroom and cargo volume. I also have to notch it down because of the fact that it is a luxury vehicle. And if you're looking at practicality, you can get just as much, if not more practicality with some cheaper vehicles. And so for that reason, since it's luxury, I do have to notch it down a point. Okay, now let's talk about safety and security. And as with most vehicles nowadays, you can get this vehicle either standard or optioned with some of the most advanced safety features on the market. Standard safety features include blind spot warning, forward collision warning, high beam assist, forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, rear auto braking and cross traffic alert, and lane departure warning. Available features include a blind spot intervention system, lane departure prevention, a 10.8-inch heads-up display, adaptive cruise control, a rear mirror camera, and a 360-degree camera system. One thing I like about this system is if you are driving on the highway, you can turn on the lane departure prevention system and the vehicle will drive you in between the lanes if your hands are on the wheel, of course. In terms of crash test ratings, this vehicle has not yet been tested, but the previous generation received 5 out of 5 stars from the NHTSA and was a top safety pick with the IIHS when equipped with the automatic high beams. Now, in terms of safety and security, I would rate this vehicle a 9 out of 10. It has pretty much every single safety feature you could ask for. I especially love the fact that this vehicle will steer you when you're driving down the highway, makes it a little bit easier to take it on long road trips. The only feature this vehicle doesn't really have is some sort of self-driving where it'll actually change lanes for you and navigate through traffic, but I'm sure that's coming in the future. If you're looking for a very safe vehicle for you and your family, you gotta keep the QX60 on your shopping list. Okay, now for part of the review that I have been dying to talk about, and that is the exterior styling. I personally love what Infiniti has done with the styling of this vehicle. Starting with the front, you have these skinny landmark Infiniti headlights that curve inwards towards the giant Infiniti grille that's been a staple of the brand for almost the last decade. Coming down from the headlights, you have these fake grille inserts that look really nice and give it a wider, muscular stance. Coming to the grille, you have this really cool design, which Infiniti says resembles the ocean waves. And I like how you have Infiniti stamped into the bottom portion in case others don't know what stunning vehicle you are driving. I like the nice use of chrome throughout the front. It doesn't go overboard and avoids looking tacky, but gives it a nice upscale appearance. There is no mistaking that this is not a luxury vehicle. I especially love this moon bow blue color. Definitely the color I'd be choosing if I were buying one. Coming up to the hood, you have this middle line that comes all the way down to the Infiniti badge and gives it a little bit of height to the front end. I also love these body lines that run from the A-pillar and offset some of the beautiful curves this vehicle has. The previous gen was looking a little bit too curvy, and I think they fixed that with these straight body lines. Coming to the side, you have another body line that extends past the door panel and then fades into a third body line that runs across the side all the way to the back, where the rear end actually tapers in, giving it a sleeker appearance, and also part of the reason why you don't have 3 seats in the third row. On the side, you do have these chrome door handles, and I'm glad Infiniti is keeping with traditional door handles. I'm not a big fan of the electronic ones you are seeing in vehicles nowadays, so I appreciate Infiniti keeping the old school door handle design. One subtle design cue is this indented body panel that gives a hockey stick shape tapering down towards the bottom. Down at the bottom, you have another chrome accent with the Infiniti script written across it. And one thing to note is whether you like it or not, you do have these plastic molded wheel arches regardless of trim level. Coming to the back is where I like it a little bit less than the front, only because I think this looks too similar to the new Nissan Pathfinder. I kind of wish they made it look a little bit different like they did with the front. Don't get me wrong, I love the LEDs and this protruding body line, but I think it's hard to tell the difference between this and a Nissan Pathfinder. That's okay though, because it is beautiful. Coming lower down, you do have these chrome trim pieces that look like exhaust covers, which some people really hate because it looks like it mimics exhaust tips, but they don't. I personally don't mind it because this isn't like a sporty crossover where you need chrome exhaust tips sticking out, but I wanted to make sure I point that out for all of you. Overall, I would rate the exterior a 10 out of 10. To me, that is the major selling point of this car. I think Infiniti has always made beautiful looking cars. In my mind, they were the first to create a coupe SUV with the old FX35, and they've continued their innovation in design with this model. Yes, I wish the back end didn't resemble Pathfinder, but there's no denying that it looks good. Great job, Infiniti, on always making a classy looking vehicle. Now let's get inside and talk interior. Now, the interior is arguably even better than the exterior. Starting off with the door, you have this nice soft touch material throughout the entire panel and a beautiful design to the door handle. Coming down to the lower portion, I love how the Bose sound system is integrated into this concave shape rather than just a regular flat panel. Coming inside, you have this beautiful leather material all across the front end and below this center display out towards the passenger. You can also get this in a quilted option if you get the more upgraded trim level. Let's briefly talk seats. They are also just as gorgeous as the rest of the interior, and you can get them in 3 different colors: graphite, sandstone, or saddle brown. Mine are sandstone, but if it were my choice, I would get the saddle brown because I think it looks stunning. They are powered and have lumbar support as you would expect from a luxury vehicle. Sitting inside, you can get 3 different trim levels. You have shiny black material, a silver metallic weave, or the black open pore wood like my Tester has. The steering wheel has been updated and feels good in the hands. On the left side, you have your controls for the instrument cluster and the radio, and on the right side, you have your cruise control options. You also get paddle shifters for some more spirited driving. The next feature I love, which I touched on earlier, is this 12.3-inch instrument cluster. You have various functionality, including turning on and off your safety features, going through some of the menus for your audio, your navigation, and some of the information on your vehicle like tire pressure and MPG. Coming towards the center, you have lots of functionality with this 12.3-inch touchscreen. Overall, it's very easy to use, very intuitive. You have your home screen where you have quick access to your radio, navigation, weather, and clock. And then you also dive into some of the settings where you can adjust how your menus look, what navigation features you want shown, and make adjustments to your 360-degree camera. Coming down from the touchscreen, you have this touch-sensitive display for your climate controls. What I like about this compared to a traditional touchscreen is that you have haptic feedback, so you know for certain if you have pushed the buttons. It's almost as if you have physical buttons here, but it's actually just a touchscreen. I also like how you get this cockpit-like feel to the front seats with everything positioned towards the driver. Further down, you have a wireless charging pad on this sensory trim and a couple USB ports. Moving back, you'll find your electronic shifter and controller knob to manipulate the touchscreen. My kudos to Infiniti for giving you the option to use either the touchscreen or a controller knob. These have been going away in cars, but I like that Infiniti gives you the choice because sometimes it's nice to just have a rotary knob. I don't know, maybe I'm old school. The center arm console flows beautifully into this armrest, which is nicely padded for long road trips. Moving to the passenger side, you have the same nice soft touch materials and a beautiful appointed ambient lighting strip that extends from the driver's side all the way to the passenger side and makes this top portion of the dashboard almost appear like it's floating. One feature I really love about the interior is this panoramic sunroof, which actually comes standard on the base model. It really opens up the interior, and even though I wish it went a little bit further back, I can't complain since it comes standard. It also opens for the front row, which is a nice added feature. Moving to the second row, there's not as much to discuss here, but it's just as inviting as the first row. You've got great use of materials on the door panel and the same nice upholstery on the seats. Overall, I would also rate the interior a 10 out of 10. They hit the mark with this 12.3-inch touchscreen and instrument cluster, and the beautiful use of bright leather throughout the interior with this wood material throughout the cabin really gives it a nice touch. I can just find myself sitting in here and admiring all of the different shapes and curves. Now, before we jump inside, I briefly want to talk about this Infiniti key, which is just your standard key for the brand. You've got your remote start stop, you've got your lock, unlock, your power lift gate, and your panic button. Okay, now let's talk about performance and handling. And in order to do that, we got to get inside the cabin, put our hand behind the sensor to unlock it, and get inside of this beautiful cabin. Now, this vehicle does have the push button start over here at the bottom near the selector, and this does have the easy entry and exit where it will move the steering wheel up and the seat back for you to be able to get out of the vehicle a little bit easier. Now, to talk about blind spots, they're actually not too bad. You can see through that last window pretty decently, but this vehicle does come with blind spot monitoring if you need it, and so that is a nice feature to have in any car here in 2022. Okay, so setting off here in the Infiniti QX60, first thing you'll notice is we're on a very bumpy road right now, and it really does soak up the bumps very well. Now, obviously, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but it's not jarring whatsoever. I can easily drive on that road without feeling like I'm in a truck or anything super uncomfortable. In terms of acceleration, it's not fantastic. Unfortunately, it does seem like this vehicle could use a little bit more horsepower, but then again, this is just your regular luxury crossover. This isn't supposed to be any type of sporty crossover. This isn't like a Mercedes AMG or a BMW M Series. This is just kind of your entry-level engine, and so it's not meant to be super quick, but it's plenty of power to get you going and kind of keep you driving down the road and not put you in a dangerous situation. And a vehicle of this size, it's normal.
Severe thunderstorm warning in about 13.4 miles from current location.
Now let's talk about road noise and sound quality. Overall, it's a very, very quiet cabin. It has to be one of the quietest cabins I've ever driven in, and that has to do with this being a luxury vehicle. I mean, you would expect it to be quiet because you're paying over $60,000 for this vehicle. And Infiniti did a great job. There's really no complaints with the interior cabin noise. You can easily have a conversation with the second and even the third row without feeling like you have to scream in order for them to hear you. But most cars nowadays are pretty quiet. This just takes it a little bit to the next level in terms of quietness. Now we're about to enter this curvy road, and well, handling is what you would expect out of a vehicle of this size. Now, luckily this vehicle is pretty low to the ground. It's only got about 6.7 inches of ground clearance, so it's not super wobbly on curves, but at the same time, this does not handle like you would expect a performance vehicle, and obviously given the engine, this is not a performance vehicle by any means. I will say the maneuverability of this car is actually fantastic. It's got a great turning radius, and it handles more like a two-row crossover than I would say a three-row crossover. And just in terms of general feel inside the cabin, it doesn't feel very large. And I think Infiniti did a great job being able to pack 3 rows into a vehicle that looks very similar inside and out to a 2-row crossover. Let me do this quick U-turn here. I'll show you what that looks like so you can see what the turning radius is like. But really fantastic turning radius. And again, I went on a dirt road and you couldn't really feel it. You definitely don't feel it on your butt because the seats are incredibly comfortable and the ride quality is very soft as well. Now, in terms of seating position, I really do like these zero gravity seats. Do I think they're the best in the industry? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the zero gravity is more of a marketing gimmick or if it's really something that they chose to design around, but they are comfortable. I will say that. They are very soft to ride in, and I could easily drive in this car in long road trips without feeling uncomfortable. And the same goes towards the passenger and the second row seats as well. Overall, very soft seats and lots of cushioning, especially when you're driving over some rough roads like we just did back there. Let's do another acceleration here as we have to merge in. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it's not bad. It'll get you in and out of places just fine. You can merge onto the freeway without a problem. But I do wish it had just a little bit more power to it. Maybe some sort of turbo or supercharging. I just wish that Infiniti just had that as an option. This is a great base engine, but if they had a maybe more powerful engine as an option that you could purchase, I think that would be the cherry on top. I think that would make this car even punch higher above its weight because you have that additional functionality. That being said, the buyer of this vehicle does not want a sporty crossover. They just want something that gets you from point A to point B, look fantastic, have lots of practicality, lots of safety features, and from that standpoint, this vehicle has that. One thing I wish this vehicle had was that Infiniti sound that is common among some of the other vehicles from Infiniti that I have driven. Yeah, this vehicle does not sound like a typical Infiniti. You have this really distinct sound to some of the Infinitis I drove. My brother has actually a Q50 that has a really cool, distinct note to it that without denying it, you can obviously tell it's an Infiniti versus any other car. To me, this engine sounds no different than pretty much any other 3.5 liter that I've driven. So I do wish they made it a little bit more unique with that engine tuning of the sound and the exhaust. Kind of would make it a little bit more special and bespoke. Now, in terms of safety features, this vehicle pretty much comes with everything you could ask for. On the steering wheel, you'll push this blue vehicle button that kind of turns on the 360 sensors and everything like that for your adaptive cruise control and your lane keep assist. And this vehicle will actually keep you in the lane. Now, it works better on the freeway, but let me turn it on here and you'll see that there's a little graphic over here on the instrument cluster, and that shows you that the lane centering is on, and it actually guides you right in between the lanes. If you're driving just on long road trips or long stretches of road, this vehicle does keep you in the center of the lane, but I will say it's a little sensitive where you do have to pretty much put your hands on the wheel the entire time. Otherwise, it's going to give you the alert that it just gave you on the screen. We'll go probably like 5-10 seconds, and then it's going to force you to put your hands back on the steering wheel, which makes sense because it's not a foolproof system. So just to be safe, it's better to have your hands on the steering wheel anyways, but it does a pretty good job keeping you in between the lanes. See right there, it actually kind of failed. But again, this is not on the highway. We're in city streets where occasionally the lanes end and this vehicle doesn't really know what's going on. So it does a pretty good job overall. It could be a little bit better, but again, it's perfectly fine for long stretches of road on the freeway. So overall, I would rate the performance and handling a 6 out of 10. By no means is it bad. It's actually a great vehicle in terms of day-to-day driving, but if you're looking for something a little bit more spirited in driving, this vehicle is not the vehicle for that. This is strictly a luxury car, and that's evident just from the powertrain to the way it looks, the way it handles. This is not meant to handle like a sports vehicle like some of the other competitors brand themselves. I do wish they had a red sport version or a more powerful engine, but until that happens, my rating is at 6 out of 10. But regardless, it's perfectly fine for day-to-day driving and everything that you need this vehicle for. If you're just looking for a vehicle that can get you from point A to point B, the engine in this vehicle has plenty of get up for that type of functionality. Okay, now let's talk about some of the fun and hidden features particular to this QX60. The first fun feature to discuss is how many Infiniti logos are located throughout the vehicle. There's one on the side skirt, there's one right below the main Infiniti badge on the front grille.
Obviously, you have Infiniti script written across the back, right below the Infiniti logo, and then you also have it on the door seals for every single door. The next cool feature is, since this one is equipped with the lighting package, you have this beautiful underglow underneath the vehicle at night and the light illuminating from the side view mirrors. I also want to point out the cool lighting on the trim pieces located in the trunk. It's a really nice touch from Infiniti. There's also beautiful ambient lighting located throughout the interior of the cabin, underneath the door handles, behind the center screen, also on the driver's side and the rear driver and passenger side as well. There's also ambient lighting in the cup holders and in the wireless charging slot. Another fun quirk about this vehicle is you cannot power operate the third row down, but when you manually push the third row seats downwards, you can power operate them back up to their original position. Not sure why Infiniti didn't make those both power operated. The next cool feature is the massaging seats function for both the passenger and driver side. Gives you 3 different options and various levels of intensity and speed. The next cool feature is the clean function, which actually purifies the air going inside of the cabin. The next feature is the 360-degree camera, which is very helpful when you're parking in tight spots, especially for a vehicle with 3 rows.
So what are my overall thoughts on the Infiniti QX60? Well, as I'm sure you can tell, I absolutely love this vehicle. In my opinion, it's one of the best options for a 3-row luxury crossover, and it comes at a pretty decent price point. And styling alone, I think, even though that is subjective, it is one of the best on the market. Now, Infiniti obviously designed this vehicle around the buyer in terms of the easy third row access and the loads of safety tech to make it very easy to drive on long road trips, to the pretty ample performance under the hood. Now, I do wish they had some sort of red sport version that had maybe like 400 horsepower or something like that to better compete with the likes of AMG or M Series from BMW, but I don't think Infiniti will ever go down that route. Now, Infiniti has kind of fallen into the background in terms of luxury vehicles over the last few years, but I think with this updated QX60, they just made a major leap forward, and I'm curious to see what other vehicles they're going to be introducing on this platform. Overall, if you're looking for a fantastic looking, practical, luxury, and safe SUV, I recommend you check out the QX60 because you will not be disappointed. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If this is your first time stopping by, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. If you're also interested, you can check out my social media. I'll put it down in the description below. But until next time, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.